Okay, so long division, the dreaded long division. So if I have a question like, 4,826. So I have 4,826 M&Ms, and I have, I'm going to get a different marker, and I have 18 kids in my class. Yeah, right, I wish. And I want to find out how many M&Ms each person is going to get. So again, we have the traditional method, which I'll start with, which I know probably all of you guys know. I encourage kids to try things out on the side or even use calculators as long as they understand the process of division. So 18 doesn't fit into 4, so you can put an X or a 0 or nothing at all. 18 fits into 48. Kids might guess 3 times or 4 times. I'll try 4 on the side here. And I would be showing kids my thought process in this whole thing. Oh no, that's way too much. Whoops, yeah. So 18 times 3. That's just a little bit too much, so it's going to be 18 times 2. And I encourage kids not to erase these because we might have to come back and use them later. So 36. So I put 2 up here, and I take away my 36, and I have 12. And make sure that you're mentioning to kids that if it's bigger than 18, then this number wasn't high enough, and so on and so forth. So I bring down my 2 ends. And again, I would let kids use the calculator for this part just so that they're not stressing. I'm going to try 7 just to make sure that I don't have it. So that's 12, 126. So that's too high, so it's going to be 6. So because the 2 is the number I brought down, my 6 goes right above it. So 18 times 6 is 108. And I do my subtraction, and I get 14. Okay, so then I bring down my last number, which is a 6. How many times does 18 fit into 146? Well, for sure 7 times. Make sure it's not going to be 8 times. Oh, it is going to be 8. So 6 was the number I brought down. My 8 goes directly above it. I take away 144, and I have a remainder of 2. Okay, so that's the traditional method. Doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of things that kids need to remember. They need to be relatively neat and organized. But as long as you're using story with it, it's not the worst method ever. And as long as you encourage them to share their work. Also, when you do review long division or introduce it, depending on the grade that you're doing. I do a lot of group work with this. I get kids, I'll put a question on the board like this, and I'll say work with 2 or 3 people and solve it. And I do that for, I just sporadically throw them in there at a week at a time, so it's not this overwhelming, scary concept. And then we get to the point where kids are doing some questions on their own and trying to solve them. So that's the traditional method. A method that actually a student showed me, so if I have that same question, that I really like and I actually really prefer, is I call it the magic box method of division. So I just draw this box on the side and I give them this. Okay, so this is the magic box method. So I would give kids the story. I have 4,826 jelly beans. How many jelly beans do you think each person will get? Each of the 18 people. So, and I talk to kids about multiplication that we know, because kids know how to multiply. So and because we do a lot of mental math, would automatically see that, if we have 2 zeros on the end of this 18, then we can take that away and we know for sure that many, or each person would get that many M&Ms. So they would for sure start by going, you know what, I know if I multiply 18 by 100, then I can take that away and see how much I have left. So I know for sure each of my 18 people are going to get 100 M&Ms. So I subtract this, and let's see how much we're working with now. Okay, so I still have 3,026 M&Ms. So lots of kids at this point are going to say, well, I know I can take away another 100. So let's do that. Okay, so I have 1,226 M&Ms left. Can I take away another 100? No, there's not another 100 to take away. So, well, what can we start working with? I can take away 18. I can do it once. Or kids will say, well, why don't we try 5 M&Ms or 50 M&Ms? And at this point with this method, it really doesn't matter. It's whatever they feel comfortable with. Some kids will be like, okay, I know 100, will give me 2 zeros. I'm going to try 10 because then I can take away 180. So some kids might stick to a method like this because they're comfortable with the zeros and eventually work it down. So I have 1,046 M&Ms left. They'll quickly realize that they'll be here till Christmas if they keep only using 10. So most kids will then, because they're doing this in groups, they'll start to develop strategies. Well, what's 18 times 5? And I'd let them use the calculator, or they might just do it on the side like this. It's 90. Okay, well then if I take 5, if I add a 0 to this, that gives me 900, which means I would add a 0 to this. So they might try 50, which would be taking away 900. So they're left with 146 M&Ms, which now is a really kind of workable number. They can see right away here, well, I can take 5 away. And every time that they decide to take something away, they add it to this box here. Okay, so I have 56 M&Ms left. Well, let's try taking away 3. And they'll just I bet you each person can get 3 more. They'll come up with these little strategies. Oh, that's 54. So I'm going to take away 3 more. And there's 2 M&Ms left. So there's going to be a remainder of 2 for, I always say, the teacher or whoever. So how many M&Ms does each person get? 100, 200, 250, 260, 268 M&Ms. And then there's 2 left for me. So this method makes a lot more sense for kids because they decide the numbers that they get to work with. And if you're doing a lot of mental math, they're going to pick these numbers right off the bat and feel really good about how much they're breaking it down. And with this method, they're really starting to talk about what makes sense. Like, can each person get 300, maybe each person gets 300 M&Ms. They might guess that right off the bat and realize it doesn't work and then slowly work down. So this really does give some concrete strategies for this concept. Okay. The last method that I want to talk about is kind of in between the magic box method and the traditional method. It provides kids a little bit more structure. Again, because usually if you're moving on to division, kids are feeling pretty comfortable with multiplication and understanding what's happening when we multiply numbers. So I would still set it up with a story. I have 4,826 M&Ms, 18 kids. How many M&Ms is each person going to get? And on the side, because they're comfortable with the multiplication piece, I get them to choose some basic numbers that they can multiply. So I start 1, 2, 3, maybe 5, and 10. And so I'm multiplying 18 by these numbers. So 1 times 18 is 18, 2 times 18 is 36, 3 times 18, if they're not sure, they can work it out or use a calculator. It's 54. 5 times 18, again, if they're not sure, they can use a calculator or work it out, is 90. And 10 times 18 is 180. Okay, and once they have these basic multiplication questions figured out, you can mention to them, or hopefully they'll kind of realize that if they know what 18 multiplied by 2 is, they also know that 18 multiplied by 20 would be 360. By 30 would be 540. By 50 would be 900. They would also know that by 200 would be 3,600. By 300 would be 5,400. And so on. Okay, so that they kind of, this is another really good mental math strategy so that they're seeing that when you multiply by a multiple of 10, you just simply add a 0. So if they have these kind of ones worked out on the side, they can look at their number and see what they're close to. Well, I know for sure the kids are going to get in between 200 and 300 M&Ms. So we can't put 300, it's going to be 200 and something. So I put 200 up top, and I subtract 3,600. Okay, and I get 1,226. So this is the number I'm working with now. I know I can take 900 away from it. Or, I'm sorry, I can take away 900, so I'm going to multiply by 50. So, taking away 900, and I have 326 left. So I look at here. Okay, I can't take away 20 more. Each person's not going to get 20 more. Each person's going to get, for sure, 10 more. So I'm going to add 10 up here, take away my 180. Okay, and I have 146 left. So I'm looking up here, well, I can give each person 5 more M&Ms, which means that I'm going to take away 90. And I can give each person 3 more M&Ms, which takes away 54 more, and I'm left with 2. So they add all the numbers up at the top. 200 plus 50 is 250, 260, 265, 268, with a remainder of 2. Okay? And this is another great method, especially when you're introducing division.